This is an emergency podcast because of all the things happening with agentic commerce, how fast it's moving. And I've been so surprised as I talk with other marketers, even in retail, about what is happening. And they still think ChatGPT is for generating blog articles.
Yeah.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Chase. Well, thanks for having me. I was going to say, please state the nature of your emergency, but you already, yeah.
We should probably do an intro.
Yeah, I'm Scot Wingo. I've been in e-commerce for about 30 years now. So I'm most well known for starting a company called Channel Advisor that helped brands and retailers sell on marketplaces like eBay, Amazon, places like that. Started that in 2001, raised 90 million venture capital, went public 2013. In 2022, we merged that with Commerce Hub, and that's now the company called Rhythm, RITHUM. Uh, so I'm no longer involved with that, but have a new company. And I started this company in fourth quarter because I thought Gen AI, Gen AI, to your point, went from LLMs to now they're search engines. They're taking share from Google. And I thought eventually they're going to get into commerce. And that would be an interesting thing for me to explore. I am as surprised as you are how fast it's happened. So this was in like October of last year. I started thinking about this, and then now it's just going at a very, very crazy pace. To your point,
Well, you have the futurists who are thinking there will be no websites. And then you have the people on the other end who are going, yeah, we're never going to, you know, really, really move to selling a lot through ChatGPT or Perplexity or any of that.
yeah, having been in our space for a while, these things are never. They're always presented as these black and white binary outcomes. They're usually somewhere in the middle. Like, I would have guessed 20 years ago that we would get to 50, 60, 70% of transactions would be online. And we're kind of stuck between 16 and 20, depending whose numbers and what categories are in there. So maybe this ends up being 25% of e-commerce. I'm optimistic that this accelerates e-commerce because e-commerce is really kind of starting to track retail. So there used to be a big 20-point difference between the two, and that is really shrinking over time, according to the Department of Commerce data. So, and actually, I don't know if you saw it, but just this weekend, Bernstein, which is a Wall Street firm, came out and they're upping their e-commerce model by 1.5% or 2.5 on the high side, due to agentic shopping. So that doesn't seem like a lot when you talk about 1.5 and 2.5, but right now it's at 6.8. So it actually would be about a 30% acceleration of e-commerce, which would be pretty material.
Um, Explain that to me a little bit. The acceleration side of it. What is that?
So the idea would be so here's the thesis on this one. E-commerce has kind of stagnated in the last 15 or 20 years. We've got, we haven't really had a lot of innovation since one-click checkout, and in fact, I would argue if you look at the bellwether, which is Amazon, and even now to some extent Walmart, you're seeing more and more of their focus go to ads, and ads, they sell stuff, but they're really retailers are focused on ads because it's a nice margin additive. It's like a third order thing. It's like, okay, we have all these transactions going on. Now, how do we squeeze a little bit more margin out of this? It's not all about how do we further increase and delight the customer. Amazon continues to whittle away at, shipping things faster, but Prime today was the other big innovation, right? So we've had like, one click shopping, 2 day. You could argue some of the Walmart stuff around grocery has been really awesome, like the various things they have there. That's innovation. But a lot in the last 8 to 10 years, there hasn't been something to really shake up and change the consumer experience. So a lot of people feel like agentic shopping could be that thing.
Mhm.
And it basically makes it even, basically you have a personal assistant that does the mundane shopping for you. So if you want to go and pick out that fashion item or furniture, if you want to have that experience where you're heavily involved, that's great. But what if you had this personal assistant that knew your shoe size, everything about you, and could instantly take care of stuff for you?
That's the first wave of adoption, probably, is the mundane things that people don't have much emotional connection to.
What we saw is people started using LLMs for non-commercial things. So like learning and, you know, hey, I want to learn more about the Roman Empire or something like that. Homework, that kind of stuff. And then now they're increasingly using it for commercial things, and it's because they added a web search capability. So the people that are telling you it's mostly for generating stuff, they're not realizing people are using it for the web search. So it's starting to take share from Google in a pretty material way. So that's the first thing people need to realize. Um, people that read and watch your content, they get that because their traffic's down. They can see their organic traffic is down into the right, and that's a huge problem for retail right now. Organic traffic's drying up because it's getting pulled up to that Gen AI layer.
Mhm.
Search engines are becoming answer engines. So that's phase one. And then phase two is people are using that web search and the LM capability to research more. So the amount when you go to research a product, there is no better way to research a product than LLMs right now, the Gen AI layer. And then the engines see that and they're like, okay, if we're going to help people research things and then they go buy it somewhere, why don't we get a piece of that action? So that's what happened. That was in the last 2 weeks when the Financial Times leaked that ChatGPT is showcasing a checkout feature where you'll just stay on ChatGPT. So you'll research things, narrow it down to a couple you want to buy, and you'll just check out right at ChatGPT.
Mhm.
That's going to be a big. I kind of liken it to a new imagination of marketplaces, if you will.
Mhm. Well, I mean, it's not a new idea of doing affiliate marketing, I guess. Like Amazon has been doing that for many years. And the way to get the eyeballs and referrals was through having information about products, doing reviews, doing deep dives into a product, and then linking over to Amazon and getting your cut. Well, I don't know. I haven't been going to review sites very, very much lately. And I used to watch a lot of YouTube reviews of products. Now I get a lot of you know, I get a lot of the answers through ChatGPT or Grok, Perplexity, if I really want to know if this product is right for me.
Yeah, because they have in their brains, in their AI brains, they have every review. They have everything on Reddit, every YouTube transcript. You cannot spend enough time to find out what they know. And you'll find the way they present it to you is very concise, and they usually do it in a list of pros and cons. They're like, okay, the pros about this mic are this, and then the cons are this. And it's usually very concise and tight, and helps you navigate through your own requirements of price, features, functionality, compatibility, those types of things.
That's where I think the idea of ownership of information has been basically collapsed because of the amount of crawling and scraping and using of information. And that's been like one of the debates and conflicts with the LLM since the beginning. When artists started realizing their art was being copied, publishers are fighting back. Cloudflare is helping fight back or wanting to come up with a model. So it's like this ongoing negotiation of whoever publishes it, it's going to get ingested and then summarized or, you know, rephrased by an LLM. So what good is it to own the information anymore? You kind of have to own the audience.
Mhm. Yeah. There's different types of information. I think in our context of retailers, um, product information should be free, right? Because that's the bait that gets people into your retail experience, or if you're a brand, your direct to consumer experience. And um, where you add value is the loyalty, pricing data, and anything around the sales data that you have. That's relatively proprietary. The good news is that's not available for a crawl. So that type of proprietary data is where you have a bit of an angle over these types of experiences.
You meaning a retailer,
A retailer, yeah,
you know. So
yeah.
that's the stuff you can that's the intel that you have for your own use, for remarketing or different strategic decisions, or even use in the retail media network.
Yeah, and I think the strategy becomes use the Gen AI just like you would Google is for customer acquisition, and then the game is once they acquire your product and get familiar with their brand, how can you get them into more of a one-on-one relationship and get them out of using that thing? It's what we've been doing with Facebook and Meta for decades now, and even people that sell on Amazon. It's just going to be the same game, a different format, and in some ways, I think it will be good because at ChannelVisor, we dealt with all these eBay and Amazon sellers. I'm sure you hear from a lot of Amazon sellers. They're a rowdy bunch, and they'll storm the castle with a pitchfork if there's like some tweak to an FBA fee or something, and uh, and there needs to be we kind of have these very large market shares between Google and Meta on the customer acquisition side, and then Amazon on the marketplace side, so on. And there needs to be more competition. And I'm optimistic. I think the growth comes from there being new competition, and all these companies, I'll throw Walmart and Target in there, are going to have to kind of innovate and keep up with this new way of helping the customer find what they're looking for and making it very, very efficient.
Yeah, it's really where the customer decides to do the search. Um,
Yeah,
a
you
lot
gotta
of
go where the customers are. You can't,
it's just like
blocking all bots is not gonna work.
hide under a rock. um, I love how you put that in terms of just treating it like another channel, and I think those brands who have used Amazon as a channel and used it successfully for many years as a first line of acquisition,
Mhm.
uh, it's the same kind of playbook because you're just looking at where the consumer is comfortable searching and finding a product.
Yep.
And Amazon really became that place for a lot of people. Even if they know they saw a product at another retailer, they're just thinking, well, I want to see the product laid out with the familiar page that I know, the reviews that validate the product, and then even comparing pricing, seeing like what others have purchased or similar products just to make sure they're getting the best deal or the best product. I think that's where D2C brands have always had kind of trouble. Like, yes, you control your brand on a D2C direct e-commerce site, but you don't have those other validating factors all the time.
Mhm.
And if the customer wants to use Amazon, they're at least going to use it for that research phase. And if they're really truly a loyal fan who don't and they know, or they're like me, where I'm a marketer and I know how much it costs, I'm gonna go direct and try to purchase direct through the brand's website.
Yeah, and we've all developed lots of tools and techniques for this. There's loyalty programs, there's, inventory, selection and product drops. There's lots of tools and techniques that have been developed, personalization, that will work with this new way of doing things for sure. Same playbook. It's gonna be a little bit different. It's gonna be scary at first. These things are always scary. But, there's I think it's a positive because I think it's gonna accelerate things, and consumers are clearly really engaged with it, which is good.
How does the customer information pass from ChatGPT to the brand?
Yeah, so that this was all just from an article that was speculation, so they didn't really go into specs on that. But usually there's a way, the way it's better. Amazon gets complicated because they've got so much going on. So there's a first party and a third party. If you were to take the third party part of Amazon and split it away, that's what I imagine it will look like. It's basically how eBay works. If you've ever sold on eBay, well, some large brands have done that, but it's much more much smaller than others,
Mhm.
or maybe like TikTok shops or something like that.
Yeah.
There's still a fair number of pure marketplaces out there, Alibaba, Tmall, and whatnot. So
Mhm.
so I think it'll look more like a pure marketplace, not having a first party component. So that'll be simpler to deal with. But the way it works is you send inventory and you get orders back that are paid for is how it will work. And then there'll be a ship to in that order piece of data that you get. That's how it works with eBay. And then
Mhm.
on the consumer's credit card, it will actually say, um, there's two ways to do this. It could say ChatGPT dash and then the name of the merchant. that's what Amazon does, or it could do what eBay does, where there's a payment mechanism that allows them to be merchant of record for a second and run the card on your behalf, basically, and then switch it over to you. So
Mhm.
um, that's the two pieces we haven't until we see it live in the world. We're not exactly sure how it's going to work yet.
Mhm.
But I think at a macro level, inventory to them and then orders back, paid a pay already paid for order.
The way you explain it sounds a lot simpler, right? Like you almost are like, yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
But what are the big implications of this?
Well, this is why we started my company Channel Advisor, because it's easy for me to say send some inventory. Well, most retailers aren't set up to gate inventory into random places. So this idea of like, how much inventory do I send there? How often do I sync inventory? Because you don't want to say, let's say you have 1,000 widgets, and then you tell ChatGPT you have 1,000, and then you sell 2,000. That'd be bad. You'd be oversold. So there's inventory complexity in how you do this. And we live in a world where retailers are constantly changing prices and content and SKUs and that kind of stuff. So the real time nature of the inventory feed to a system like this is complex. And then getting the orders back, a paid order is going to have several things like, is the tax calculated correctly? Maybe I need to route that to a different fulfillment center based on if it's East, West, Midwest type of a thing. Um, and then, if I have any upsells, a lot of retailers don't like these types of systems because they lose a lot of those extra things they get to add in there. So first of all, no one's going to your website in this scenario, so you're not getting your retail media network dollars.
Mhm.
Number two, all the cool things you've done in checkout, none of that's going to happen up at this level. So sign up for this, sign up for my text messages, join this club and that club, buy online, pick up in store. None of that stuff will be a thing. So you'll have to kind of navigate through what options do they give you, and then what do you want to do with those, and then how do you want to make sure that you get the orders correctly and then get them to the customer. And then usually there's a last little part of getting the shipping data up to ChatGPT, because there's going to be once you have a checkout, there has to be an area where people can see stuff they've bought and tracking and kind of status. And then once you have checkout, then there needs to be a return process.
Mhm.
So that's where all those things start to get, I presented them super easy, but they start to get a little bit in the weeds as you get into you know, the world. It gets particularly crazy when you have the folks that are omni-channel, because now like someone bought it on Chat GPT, can they return it to a store, and that kind of thing.
Mhm.
That used to be really big in the early days of selling on Amazon, but now it's usually people just follow the online because they have BOPUS and stuff. That's largely solved.
Yeah.
It used to be Nordstrom. You'd go with an online return, they wouldn't know what to do, and now they're just like, oh yeah, yeah. The first question they always ask is, "Did you buy it in the store or online?" So that's largely solved, but there's going to be some training and things that have to happen.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. I think was it Shopify that was talking about a deal?
Yeah, all these guys like to do a deal with Shopify, because if you get the Shop Pay payment mechanism, you get all their merchants pulled in.
Yeah.
Um, but and it always sounds like it's you kind of have most of e-commerce, but Shopify, if you look, they're big in a GMV perspective in their own right,
Mhm.
but they don't pull in a lot of the brands and retailers you would want. They don't have that cadre of, obviously they don't have Walmart and Amazon. They don't have many of the top 100 or 200 retailers under their banner.
Mhm. Who do you think is most likely to, I guess, need to get on this fast? What kind
I
of
think
companies?
I think fashion, beauty, jewelry, consumer electronics. I think kind of like the hot consumer categories will be number one. I think laggards can be the whole B2B world. I don't think that's going to be here very quickly. It's very consumery right now. It's not like business people. I think business people are researching things, but I think that hasn't moved down into the shopping, the more purchase down funnel.
Mhm.
Um, I think there's some categories that'll be interesting to see how the LLMs navigate because they have extra complexity they're going to have to train the LLMs on. And the famous one that we were well aware of at ChannelAdvisor is auto parts because they have all the normal complexity of variations and all this jazz, and then they also have this thing called fitment. So they have like an extra fun fourth dimension of complexity. So I don't think we'll see that in the early days. So I think it's going to be a while before we see something there for auto parts. But I think sporting goods, home improvement, the normal core categories of consumer e-commerce are going to be where you see a lot.
Hmm. Are you? who- Maybe I shouldn't ask, but I was going to ask who's coming to you. What kind of job titles and roles are getting most concerned about this?
Yeah, so we started writing about this, kind of in January, February, and then in April, and we were talking to people were starting to see a traffic decline, but this was kind of like the SEO people at retailers. So the people that are watching SEO were calling us.
Mhm.
Um, Now and then what happened is, and I don't know the causation of this, but both Wall Street Journal and Barron's within a week of each other in April came out with 2 articles about this. And Barron specifically showed e-commerce traffic going down 10%. And I think retailers are seeing that and they were wondering why. And I think this was the light bulb moment where they realized increasingly they're losing traffic to these Gen AI web search experiences. Um, and so then it started to be VP and SVP, and then the ChatGPT thing has kind of worked its way up to C-level. So the public companies are their boards are kind of thinking this is something we need a strategy for, and we need to work very quickly. And um, the big thing everyone's waiting on is ChatGPT 5 is coming any day now. So it's been a while since we had a big new model, and there's a lot of if you kind of piece it together, why would they be showing people at checkout if it wasn't going to be kind of a core part of ChatGPT 5? So a lot of people are thinking that's going to be a big deal. Also, a thing we haven't talked about is another element of this that's pretty crazy is all these guys are coming out with browsers too. So,
Yeah.
to your point about how do you block these bots? What they're going to move to is there's going to be browsers. So instead of using Chrome, you'll use the ChatGPT browser. The one that's out right now is Perplexity has a browser called Comet that's very good, and in that sense, there's no server round trip. So if you're Amazon's blocking all these bots right now, but Comet can go look into my Amazon account freely because it's at kind of a God mode, if you will. It has the high ground. It's almost like an operating system at that point for the web. So there's no way um, that that you can look at stopping this traffic because it looks just like my traffic because it's coming from my computer. So
Right.
so that's a whole nother kind of twist in all this that's gonna happen here soon.
That's what I was seeing with like the ChatGPT browser. It's a virtual computer, basically, from their server.
It's
Where
still a
even
server-based virtual computer, and you can block those because you kinda know where they're coming from.
yeah,
Um, but yeah,
even the
so
even
Cloudflare could block those, but, Cloudflare is not gonna be able to block the browser.
right, even if it mimics like a human clicking, scrolling behavior, it's still coming from their centralized
Yeah, they
server.
can tell from the IP where it's coming
Yeah.
from.
So with Perplexity Comet, it's a browser. It's like an alternative Chrome browser, and it's on your PC, uh, and it's already logged into your stuff. So it's coming from your device. I would think more would do that, but that definitely is you know a, a, a difference between Perplexity's comment and the other ones like ChatGPT's browser.
Yeah, it's well known ChatGPT is working on a browser. It just kind of is up to question of when it's coming out. So they hire the original Chrome developers. So
Mm.
it is they're definitely working on a browser.
Mm.
So yeah, they could do a shock and awe where I predict, now that I'm kind of seeing the pacing here, I think by mid October this year, there's going to be so much stuff. We'll have to do another emergency pod because there's going to be so much stuff coming out in these next like 60 to 90 days that it's going to be shock and awe. It's going to be crazy.
All right, we'll plan for some emergencies. I mean, this is the probably the most cutting edge consumer tech, stuff that changes consumer behavior and how we see the internet and e-commerce overall.
Yeah, there was another stat that just came out last week where previously we knew in December of 2024 there were a billion prompts being entered at ChatGPT, and then Sam was on a podcast and said they're up to 2.5 billion. So in 8 months they went from 1 billion, basically what you and I would call searches, but they call prompts, to 2.5. So they had 150% growth in 8 months in the activity of people, you know, engaging with ChatGPT.
Hmm.
And it's easy to get these big numbers of growth when you're at 2 million going to 10 or something that are amazing. But this is billions that we're talking.
Yeah.
They have 800 million active. I think they do weekly active users. I think they have 800. That's the last stat that they put out. So this is becoming material very, very quickly.
Well, and the conversion rate, people are saying as well, if somebody is coming from ChatGPT, the conversion on becoming a purchaser is much higher. So I'm not going to quote the stats because it's probably changed by now, but it's a significant amount that people are taking these visitors more seriously, even if they are a small slice right now.
Yeah, because they've already done their research. By the time they get to your site, they're at the very, very tippy bottom of the funnel, ready to what did you?
Hmm. Yeah, it's much like if a customer walks into a store and they've already done all their research, they know what models, they've watched all the YouTube reviews and everything, and then they walk into the store. It's very different than if they're just kind of browsing.
Exactly.
Um, okay.
Any other questions? We, we should talk about the rent table coming up.
The roundtable's on Wednesday. We have 5 people. I'll be moderating. Scott, you'll be one of them.
I
And
look forward to mixing it up.
yeah, no, this is kind of what we need to be doing, especially in this. It's not just a trend for the year. This is like something happening right now. Like you said, you're predicting things for the next, would you say October? We got 3 months
Yeah.
until we think this next thing will drop. And it's definitely the forefront. All the data centers being built, everything's being prepared for a new way, and it just seems like I don't want to sound too much like a cult by talking about it, but it just seems like the future is coming very fast.
I think if you predict this is going to happen, you have a 90% plus chance. So yeah, people have seen it. It exists. So this is not just theoretical. This is coming pretty quickly.
Hmm. Yeah, so we'll see you Wednesday on that, and we'll probably need a few because there was so many people who responded to me saying they want to be on the Agentic Commerce roundtable, and it's also impacting so many different things. So probably have a part two and continue to cover it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I look forward to it.
Thank you so much. We're right at 29 minutes. Appreciate having you jump on this emergency podcast.
Absolutely. If you have any other agentic emergencies, just ring me up. Chase is good chat.
Thank you.